Chicago. A Monday morning, the Westbrook Global Logistics headquarters gleamed with light from its towering glass windows, reflecting the city's skyline. Inside, a flow of people hurried through the main lobby, sharply dressed employees with phones pressed to their ears, their shoes tapping rhythmically on the marble floors. In that whirlwind of activity, no one paid attention to a woman in a faded blue uniform, pushing an old mop cart down the hallway. That was Angela Brooks, a cleaning worker in her 40s, calm in expression, humble in bearing. To most people here, she was nearly invisible. But that morning, something extraordinary happened. CEO Richard Coleman, a powerful, hard-nosed white man, stepped out of the elevator. At that moment, he heard Angela's voice behind him. At first, Richard paid no mind until he realized she was speaking Japanese. Fluently, naturally, with perfect pronunciation. A small group of foreign visitors stood awkwardly in the lobby. Looking lost, Angela gently directed them in Japanese, then immediately switched to German to reassure another guest in their group. Before Richard could fully collect himself, she spoke Arabic, clearly explaining something to an elderly visitor. For an instant, the space seemed to fall silent. But cleaning woman, mop in hand, had become a diplomat. Richard was struck dumb. The image of that invisible woman transformed instantly, profound, fluid, commanding. He could hardly believe his eyes. No one among the employees in the lobby noticed, but the CEO stood frozen, following every word Angela spoke. In him a question welled. Who exactly is she? And when Angela finished, bowed politely to the visitors, then quietly resumed pushing the mop cart, Richard made a bold decision. He would follow her. He needed to uncover the truth. The story begins at that sudden encounter. Angela Brooks once had a luminous youth. She was a linguistics student at the University of Michigan, one of the most prestigious schools in America. From an early age, Angela had been passionate about languages, inflection, and the cultures of diverse peoples. She dreamed of becoming a researcher or lecturer, traveling the world to connect people through language. But life would not allow Angela to follow a straight path. In her third year of college, her mother was diagnosed with a terminal illness. Before she could adjust, her father died in a traffic accident. The burden fell entirely on Angela's shoulders. She had to drop out, juggling part-time jobs and caring for her family. Her dream of linguistic research was abandoned, and from that point, her life entered a very different chapter. In the years that followed, Angela married, hoping to find peace, but her happiness was short-lived. Her husband left her and their daughter when the child was still very young. Raising her daughter alone, Angela had few options. She accepted any work she could find, selling in supermarkets, babysitting for neighbors, doing cleaning jobs. Eventually, the cleaning position at Westbrook Global became her only lifeline, since the night shifts were flexible, allowing her both to earn a living and care for her child. 15 years passed. Every day, Angela donned her blue uniform and quietly polished the gleaming hallways of the skyscraper. To the company's employees, she was just a shadow. No one ever asked her name. No one knew her past or her linguistic gift. But there was one thing Angela had never abandoned: learning foreign languages. In her small restroom, after exhausting shifts, she still turned on the radio to listen to French news, read Spanish newspapers, practice speaking Japanese alone before a mirror. Every new word she wrote down, every sound she repeated, these were her reminders that, no matter what life took from her, no one could ever take away that passion. People looked at Angela as an ordinary cleaning worker, but inside, she was a treasure trove of knowledge, simply never given the chance to be heard. After that morning, when Richard Coleman unexpectedly heard Angela speaking many languages, he could not stop thinking about that woman. He was a practical man, rarely concerned with anything beyond business. But on that day, something compelled him to learn more. At last, Richard made his move. He approached Angela while she was cleaning on the 15th floor. "Excuse me, I am Richard Coleman," he said hesitantly. Angela looked up, briefly startled. Standing before her was the CEO, the man everyone in this building feared. She bowed her head, speaking softly. "I know, sir, I will finish quickly. I will not trouble you." But Richard smiled. "No, no. I only want to ask, this morning I heard you speaking to visitors. How many languages was that?" Angela, a little shy, gripped her mop handle tightly. A moment of silence passed. Then she answered quietly, 10 languages, sir." Richard frowned, thinking he must have misheard. "What did you say?" 10 languages. I taught myself English, French, German, Spanish, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Arabic, Portuguese, and Swahili." The CEO stood in stunned silence. A cleaning worker, holding only a high school diploma, yet she possessed a linguistic repertoire far beyond many professionals in his company. Still skeptical, he awaited his chance. That very afternoon, Westbrook had an important meeting with a delegation from Tokyo. Their lead interpreter fell severely ill and was rushed to the hospital. The meeting room descended into chaos. Richard's mind went immediately to Angela. When he asked her, Angela initially declined, but Richard's determined gaze left her no room to back down. Thus, wearing her cleaning uniform still smeared with cleaning solution and a faded name badge pinned to her chest, Angela entered the boardroom. Some glances were mocking, a few even snickered. But once the meeting commenced, those laughs gradually died out. Angela interpreted each sentence of the Japanese partners with clarity and precision. Not only the language, but she deftly explained context, conveyed the delicate nuance of Japanese politeness. When one delegate used a difficult idiomatic phrase, Angela translated not just the literal meaning but also the cultural significance behind it. Earning nods of approval around the room, the atmosphere shifted completely. The Japanese partners turned to look at Angela with respect. One of them even said, "She understands us more than a professional interpreter." Richard was motionless. In that moment, he realized, within his own company, he had just unveiled a rare gem, a person hidden beneath layers of prejudice. And he vowed he would not allow that gem to remain wasted for even one more day. After the successful meeting with the Japanese partners, Richard immediately summoned Angela to his office. For the first time in her 15 years at Westbrook, Angela stepped onto the top floor, home to the CEO's office. The space was vast and luxurious, with glass walls offering a sweeping view of Chicago. But for Angela, walking into this place felt like entering another world, one she had never imagined herself belonging to. Richard pulled out a chair and gestured for her to sit. His voice lowered. "Angela, how long have you been hiding this from me?" Angela hesitated for a moment, then began to speak. She talked about her youth, when she received a scholarship in linguistics. She spoke of the father who died in an accident, the mother left bedridden by illness. She spoke of the darkest nights when her husband walked out, leaving her with a small child and mountains of debt. Her voice trembled, but her eyes remained bright. "I never got the chance to finish school, but I could not let go. Every night after work, I studied newspapers, radio, television, anything I could find. I did not want to disappear in silence." Richard listened, overwhelmed by an emotion he rarely allowed himself to feel. This was not just a janitor. This was a woman who had sacrificed everything and still held on to her belief in her own worth. He spoke gently. "Angela, I want to give you a real opportunity. Not something temporary, something official." But Angela let out a quiet, bittersweet laugh. "Do you know what people will say? A janitor sitting at the same table as executives. They will laugh in your face. They will think it's a joke." Angela was right. News of it spread through the company like wildfire. Many younger employees, especially those who were people of color or immigrants, saw Angela as a beacon of hope. Proof that talent could rise from anywhere. But on the higher floors, skeptical and mocking glances were hard to miss. Some whispered, "This is just the CEO's diversity stunt." The strongest pushback came from Margaret Hughes, a senior executive known for her conservative stance. In a tense meeting, she spoke coldly. "With all due respect, a global company cannot place its future in the hands of a janitor with no degree." The room went still, tight as a drawn wire. Angela said nothing, but inside, her spirit burned. This was the real test, not just translating languages, but shifting the gaze of judgment that stood in her way. The big question now was, what would Angela do to prove her worth to a world still full of doubt? That defining moment came sooner than Angela expected. A key delegation from the Middle East arrived in Chicago to negotiate a multi-million-dollar shipping contract. The meeting was carefully planned, with the main interpreter seated and ready for a long day of discussions. But within minutes, the room became tense. Poor translations distorted meanings, misused words stirred offense. One side felt insulted, the other felt disrespected. Faces flushed red, a few delegates even stood up, threatening to walk out. Richard, seated at the head of the table, felt his heart pounding. This deal was vital to Westbrook's international expansion, and he knew only one person could save it. Angela, he said firmly. Gasps rippled through the room as a woman in a janitor's uniform stepped in. A few scoffs echoed, but Richard stood his ground. Please let her try. Angela took a deep breath. She walked to the negotiating table and sat down in the interpreter's seat. In that moment, the blue uniform faded away. So did the sneers. What remained was a woman with steady eyes and unshakable belief. As the partners spoke, Angela translated fluently in Arabic, her tone soft and respectful. She added familiar proverbs, cultural nuances, the kind only a true insider would know how to use. The tension broke with a burst of laughter from the delegation, but this time, laughter of connection. The lead delegate nodded, speaking in Arabic. Finally, someone talks to us like friends, not just businessmen. The entire room shifted. Trust replaced tension. The talks continued smoothly. Just hours later, the contract was signed. Applause broke out across the room. But the loudest, longest clapping came from the very people who once doubted Angela. Richard rose, voice clear and proud. Starting today, I officially appoint Angela Brooks as Director of Global Communications. She is not just an employee of Westbrook, she is the heart that connects us to the world. A stunning moment. From a dismissed janitor, Angela became a strategic leader, sitting shoulder to shoulder with senior executives. And this time, no one could deny her worth. From the day she officially became Director of Global Communications, Angela Brooks did far more than just work with international partners. She launched an entirely new project within Westbrook. She called it Hidden Voices. It was a program designed to seek out and uplift employees who had been invisible within the company, security guards who were former lecturers, warehouse workers with artistic talent, receptionists who spoke several languages. Angela wanted everyone to see that behind every humble uniform might lie a treasure yet to be discovered. Her story quickly spread beyond the walls of the company. Major news outlets covered it. Social media picked it up. Thousands of emotional comments poured in, from service workers, restaurant staff, and people who had long been underestimated by society. They saw in Angela a living reminder. You do not need a title to have value. You just need a chance to shine. And in one unforgettable interview, Angela said something that made the whole world pause. Never underestimate someone just because they wear a janitor's uniform or sit behind a reception desk. Talent might be standing right next to you, if only you take the time to look closer. Angela's story is not just a tale of perseverance. It is a powerful reminder. Sometimes, justice is simply giving someone the chance to be heard. If you believe the quiet voices around you deserve to be valued, please share this story, comment your thoughts, and do not forget to subscribe so we can keep spreading more inspiring journeys just like this one.